TSibs Vibez back on the air again today in an early edition of AHLPSN this week. And we are pretty tired at this point. Again, another week of several days of broadcasting. Next week, we're going to bring you all the final games. Whether Vibez is playing or not, we're going to be on. Hopefully, when Vibez isn't playing, he'll be on with us on the live coverage. But we've got a whole week's worth of games coming up. At least we think we're going to have 6 or 7 games. We'll talk about that in a bit. Kepler will be on with us in a few minutes to join us on the show. And again, TSibs with you, Vibez. Today, another day passed after a ridiculous Game 7 and a hell of a comeback by your team. Has it sunk in the severity or the importance of what you guys did yesterday, what your team was able to accomplish against a really good Barracuda team?
Listen, I'll say this, and I'll be completely honest.
Mm-hmm.
So watching that game last night and everything that's gone on, and I kind of felt like, I was kind of like warming myself up to the idea of losing, I think is what was going on.
Sure.
I was trying to make myself feel better about it.
Right.
Especially throughout the duration of the game. And as the game went on, I said to myself, because I really am, like when I say I'm a superstitious guy and stuff like that, to an extent I really am, especially with sports and hockey and the teams that I care about. So I really am a little superstitious in that regard. So as I'm watching the game, I'm just saying to myself, this is just the way it's going to be. Like, after everything that went on, we're absolutely going to lose this game.
Right.
And it really looked like that for a lot of the game. I mean, for most of the game, you can honestly say the Barracuda had us completely under wraps.
Right.
And then we score that goal in the third period, like around the midway point, like 13-minute mark or something like that. And you watch it and you wait and you're like, oh, well, things are starting to look a little bit like, okay, they're playing a little bit better. But then there's a face-off all the way down in the opposite end with 10.9 seconds left. Mm-hmm. And like, that's pretty much like, that's around the time where you crumble up the paper and you say, all right, that's it. Well, we're done, adios. And then what the fuck happened, Sibs?
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, it was all of a sudden the puck was in their net, and it was 2-2, and we go to OT. And by the way, I have to say I did miss the incredible pass that Nylander made to Mafia Man last night. A lot was said about Mafia Man. That pass from Nylander to Mafia Man behind the back, around the back, was one of the best passes I've seen all season long.
Right.
Absolutely. And, he finishes the job, and holy, what the fuck, we're moving on to the finals. I don't know. It was crazy.
Yeah, and, it was a pretty interesting situation. We're going to, again, we're going to show you the live, the feed from the live game. You talk about that face-off. We're showing that right now. And with 10.9 left to go, San Jose was controlling it in your zone. Looked like they'd be in good shape. And then a good kick of the puck out right to Mafia. And then, again, shot right on net. And just a beautiful play, giving you guys the tying goal. And, just a hell of a job by your defenseman to not give up anything in that last minute or so. And, it was just it just goes to show that, if you don't give up, and I think it's interesting and fun to watch. Also, Domi made a great save just before that face-off happened, and so...
Yeah, I mean, 3-on-0, they're coming down in on them. And J-Cap, honestly, if you would ask me, I think J-Cap made kind of an odd play, but at the same time, it almost worked because if you watch that play,
Yeah.
Domi wants to go across. Like, he wants to slide across. Like, you watch him,
Yeah.
and he's ready to go. You know what I mean? He's ready to go across and try and stop that play. And J-Cap, I guess, kind of reads that and holds on to it. But Domi somehow stays with him and ends up keeping that. I mean, the final, 15 seconds of that game were, I mean, multiple plays on my team's part where they just made phenomenal plays. I mean, you talk about Mafia getting that shot on net, and, a lot of people have said, oh, well, it was a, turd shot, blah, blah, blah. But that's his only play at that point. Like, did you see were you watching the clock?
Yeah.
I know you were, but, my question to anyone else, were you watching the clock? He had absolutely nothing, and the game was over.
Yeah.
So to have that sense of mind and understanding of the game and the situation and where you are on the ice and the time on the ice to take that shot to wind up and put it past them, that's one of the plays of the year. As simple of a shot as it actually was, it's one of the plays of the year.
And I'm just showing that play where J-Cap comes down the other way with the puck, and we're just going to show one more time here as J-Cap has it. He's able to pick up a puck that was a little bit loose. Basically 3-on-0. J-Cap has Domi moving, but not able to put it past him short side. That would have ended the game right there. And then, of course, we're showing right now, again, that face-off. And Beal right here kicks it with the stick right to Mafia. I mean, everything had to fall into place. He kicked it right to Mafia, man, who brings it right down the ice, throws it in front, and somehow Nylander is able to get a stick on that puck and pound it home. And that, it just I've watched it over and over again. That's why I had no problem, showing it again just now. It was just amazing. That entire sequence, those last 15 seconds with J-Cap not able to score on that play, Domi somehow stopping the puck, and then off the face-off, San Jose still controlling it, and then Beal, sees the open puck, just throws a stick at it, kicks it up to Mafia, and a second or two later, the game is tied with .2. You want to talk about stepping in dog shit and coming up smelling like roses? That last sequence was it, man.
Yeah, I have to say, man, and I'm sure that there might be a little bit of inherent bias because it was my team, or is my team, or whatever the case may be. But I mean, I don't know. Everything that happened in those final, it wasn't even like the final 2 minutes or 1 minute. It was like the final 15 seconds.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, you heard on the broadcast last night, you heard me and Biggie, like, what just happened? It really was. It was really a matter of a case of what the hell just happened.
Yeah.
And you watch that, you show that play with Cap and Domi and everything, and I mean, you watch him, man, like he wants to go, but what a play by him to hang in there and not bail out, unreal.
Yeah, just an incredible ending to a game, and we'll also show you the final goal again here, and just the sequence leading up to it as again in overtime. San Jose, couple of guys get caught back, and then all of a sudden some good, quick passing. And again, right to Mafia, man, in front. Great pass. We'll show the sequence a couple of times here, which I'm sure we'll I don't think Magic Man's too happy about seeing this right now. But again, this is, and in both those plays, Vibes, and we'll watch it one more time. Both of these plays, your guys, your defensemen get that puck out, and then boom, passed right up. Mafia makes the pass to Nylander, and then quickly gets himself in position in the slot. That's what this game is all about. You keep moving, find the open spot, keep the puck moving, and you can beat good defenses and a good goaltender if you do that.
Yeah. I said it last night that they weren't really making any hockey plays, and they were kind of just doing it all by themselves.
Right.
And, there wasn't any real flow to the game. Well, that totally changed, especially in the overtime period and, throughout the course of the game, because that final goal, that game-sealing goal, was definitely a hockey play, and definitely took a little bit of sense and understanding of the play, and to see Mafia just kind of slot in there, he just slides right on in, and gets that pass from Nylander, and he's like, all right, well, thank you, I'll take that, and it's in the back of the net. So yeah, great play, and look, I take credit and stuff with the team, and managers do and everything. But every once in a while, you have to say to yourselves, or not say to yourself, but you have to admit the fact that sometimes you got nothing to do with anything, and that's a situation last night where I ain't got shit to do with that.
Yeah.
That is just my players, and their never say die attitude, and the decision to play to the final bell, because they pulled out an absolute miracle last night. Let's just call it what it is.
And that wasn't really necessarily the case against Cleveland. You guys beat them in Game 7 4-1. But, again, pretty much that same line, except with Go Hawks in it. Throughout that game, one thing that's really noticeable if you watch it again, even when you guys are up 3-4-1, they continue to work hard. They continue to skate quickly around, to find spots, to come back on defense. Your guys just keep that pace up the entire game, and that's a key to it. If you're down in a game like your guys were after 2 periods last night, 2-0, looking like they were going to struggle to get anything offensively going. If you then give up at that point and you start to not react as quickly as you did when the puck dropped in the first period, that's when you lose the game. Your guys did not do that. They kept it up. And again, everybody, whatever we've talked about in the last couple of games about your team, let's talk about the gameplay. Everybody last night, right down to Domi, did not give up in this game at any point and played incredibly tough and focused the entire game, and that's what got them back into it.
Yeah, and they want to win is what it is. They want to win, and all season long, I've been telling them, you play every second of the game like it's tied 0-0 and you're in overtime. That's the way you got to play this game. You got to play like it's a 0-0 score tied game in overtime, and all you need is one, and that's the way you play it. You play like all you need is one, but you can't give up one.
Right.
And that's the way you win, by playing like that every single second of the game, and that's what they do.
Well, again, just a crazy, fun game to watch. It was, again, another tale of a couple of different games, really, within that. And your guys just did a remarkable job coming back. And, we'll get talking about what's going on with, what's going to happen now in the finals. We'll get to that in a little bit. Kepler's going to come on with us shortly. He's en route back home now to be able to do it with us. So we'll get him on. It'd be nice to have somebody from both teams involved in this discussion today. And it's interesting. Again, the last 48 plus hours since Wednesday night, or actually less than 48, really. About what happened, about all the different things that went on, about what San Jose had to do what they were trying to do to field the team in Game 5. Just really interesting, all the backstory that led up to what happened in Wednesday night's games, and then, of course, last night. You've had more time now to think about everything that's happened. Maybe the emotions have settled down a bit. Talk to me about what your mindset is now about how things are going on, and what's the communication like with you and the team?
Well, like you say, I've had some time now to really think about it, and First and foremost, I will just say that I'm never going to sway on the fact that I don't like forfeits.
Right.
I did not like the forfeit. I feel like it leaves wiggle room for, what ifs and, well, maybe ifs and, what could have been and so on and so forth. So first and foremost, I do not like forfeits.
Right.
That being said, I've spoken to a few people, and a few people have told me that part of winning in the LG community and in this league is showing up. They say that's part of it, and if you don't show up, you can't win, right? And at the end of the day, we were there. We gave them extra time. I didn't want to forfeit. A lot of my team didn't want to forfeit. Even the guys who were pushing for the forfeit didn't really want to forfeit.
Right.
But people have things to do, and there are rules, and there are time frames in which you need to do things. And like I said all along, if they show up and they're on time, this whole situation never exists.
Right. Absolutely.
So ultimately, it does fall on them. Let's just be clear about that. Ultimately, it's no one's fault but the Barracuda and the management team who couldn't have a team ready. That being said, I'm never going to sway on the fact that I don't like a forfeit. And, I do feel like it is a blemish, but maybe not as big of a blemish as I originally felt like. But, it's just that when you're putting things together and you're running a team and, you put all this work in, and I've gone all season long without forfeiting a game and without calling a forfeit on anyone. I've even helped people find people.
Right.
At times.
Yeah.
So to have that happen this late in the playoffs, it is something I definitely did not want to take place, and it's unfortunate. But at the end of the day, I felt like we were left with no choice, and that's what we had to do. So.
Do you feel like your experience with the almost 80 ECUs you had to set up this season, do you think that that's part of the reason why you are you're forgiving about these kinds of things and you try and let it drag out because you know the difficulties of what it is to find people during the summer season?
Yeah, that has a little bit to do with it. And then also I just have I have a deep-rooted inherent competitive nature and a kind of a sportsmanship, and I guess you could say actually it's funny, I've been watching Game of Thrones recently. I was never really a big fan.
Okay.
And early on in the show, there's a character who has a lot of honor, and someone says to them, "Honor gets you dead." But that's how I approach things sometimes. Is I do feel like I have a lot of honor in things, and maybe people can poke fun about the fact that it's only a game, and maybe I take it a little bit too seriously, but. I do feel like you need to have a certain sort of respect for your opponents and a certain level of honor, and I try to do that. And then, yes, also I am able to put myself in their shoes. I've been in situations in different leagues where I've threatened to forfeit people, but ultimately never have, and it's not something I'd want to do because at the end of the day, everything still holds true. You want to win because you won, not because you were technically granted the W. You know what I mean?
Right,
You
sure.
technically got the check mark. But at the end of the day, sometimes I guess you're left no choice, and rules are rules. And if part of winning is following the rules and staying within the rules of the rule book and within the guidelines, and if you can't do that, I guess you can't win. So.
And yeah, I mean, look, managing the game and all that it entails, including getting a lineup ready, including getting all your players ready. Yeah, I mean, absolutely, it's part of the game. And I think what I said to the guys in the shout box yesterday, and as even I kind of cooled down a little bit, and quite honestly, I think I was emotional about this. I was not. I was not doing a good job with meeting up with what was going on because I reacted emotionally as well because I'm very much in the same camp you're in. I don't believe in in forfeits, I would want to play the game. But I understand why why a lot of guys on your team felt this was necessary to do, and I totally understand it. I was just trying, again, I want to play the games. I'm like you. You and I are very similar in that respect. We react emotionally right away initially to what happens, but eventually logic takes over, and we say, yeah, no, we understand it. The right thing was done according to the rules. The right thing was done. Now,
Yeah.
whether or not you feel personally it's the right thing to do, that's it's an opinion, but it's not rule. And you know what? If I'm one of the guys who wants to preach about rules and how we should follow them, I thought about that as well. And it's like, yeah, you know what? I talk about that all the time. Well, these are the rules. You got to follow them.
Yeah, at the end of the day, I'm getting a little bit of feedback there. At the end of the day, I'm never going to feel differently on the topic. Like, I'm always going to feel a little bit of,
Yeah.
there's always going to be a little there. But I guess that's just the way it happened. And when you get right down to it, it wasn't mine or my team's fault. And we gave them a lot of time. Like I've heard like 50 thrown around and 52 and 50 some odd, whatever like that. It was 58 and there was no invite. You know what I mean? So let's just be clear that it was damn near 10 o'clock. And people have said, and they're right, if you can't field the team by a half hour or however long after, then you're not doing your job. So
I think the way to resolve this is to find out who that ECU was who didn't show up, and we just all go and beat the shit out of him for causing all of this. Hey, Kepler joins us now, and we're just wrapping up a lot of the discussion, Kep, about what went on in the San Jose series, San Jose and the Manitoba Moose, and I think we're pretty much good with that. We showed the game-winning goal and the tying goal, and I just want to get your quick opinion as you're watching that game, and after two periods and San Jose is up 2-0. Honestly, what do you think the chances for the Moose were at that point?
I didn't see much of a chance, and I was listening to you guys as well, and I kind of think me and Vibez were thinking the same. The Moose couldn't get anything going, and finally in the third period it all started to click, and they scored that goal with 0.2 seconds left, which seemed awfully familiar. But they came back and they netted that one, and I think when they put that one in is when I kind of thought, maybe the Moose have the momentum here, maybe they can take it in overtime, and they did.
And just wow, an amazing final game. We talked about that last play, and I'm glad to see Beal is looking at us on YouTube and commenting in the live chat. We talk about that last play after the faceoff at 10.2 left to go, 10.9 left to go in the game, and San Jose controlling it. And again, it all started. It was a cascade of three very quick plays by three different people, with Beal hacking at the puck, getting it out of the zone, but getting it right to Mafia, and then Mafia getting it to Nylander, and then back to Mafia for the game winner. We talk about puck movement. We talked about the fact that once Mafia made that pass to Nylander, he gets in position. That's chemistry, and that's something that I think a lot of teams and a lot of players underestimate, because I hear the same thing from a lot of GMs. My guys never practice. My guys never play together to get any chemistry going. And again, even with this team with the Moose last night, with Louis being in there as their line mate, it took a little bit of time. But again, the chemistry with Mafia and Nylander, was a big reason why that happened last night.
Well, yeah, but I feel like they have a little bit of natural chemistry because I don't know if you know this, but that Game 7 versus the Monsters was the very, very first time Nylander and Mafia had ever seen the ice together.
Right, okay.
That is the very first time they have ever played together. They've played 2 games together, and both of them were Game 7s. But they just have a little bit of natural chemistry, I guess you can say, because they work well together. And it wasn't there for most of the game last night, but suddenly it just happened, And you look at the early stages, and it was one of those games where it looked like the Moose could have done a lot more than they were doing. Like they did have some really good opportunities, but they never really mounted too much. And you got to give credit to the Barracuda. But it was just kind of a stale game for much of that, and all of a sudden it just there it was. And I tell you what, Sibs, I know it's virtual hockey and everything like that, but
Sure.
Probably going to be watching that, especially that goal to tie it up. I'm probably going to be watching that for a while because I could not believe what just happened. I still can't believe what happened.
I'll actually post a clip in that last goal, and I'll make a clip of the other one too, so we've got them up there for eternity. But it was just an amazing sequence for both of those goals. And just again, I think we said it last night. The fact that San Jose was only up 2-0, and the Moose getting that one goal, that first goal to get some momentum going, was huge. And at that point, Kepler, I thought that the Moose still had a chance, but it felt like San Jose was still controlling the puck a lot more, and it felt like they were. They definitely were going to be able to at least kill clock, and they kind of failed in doing that right towards the end.
Yeah, I think you're right. But with a tying goal there scored at 0.2 seconds, you get a lot of air taken out of your sails.
Sure.
So you're kind of questioning, what's going on right now, because honestly, you don't want to believe that happened. And I know from experience. You come down on a big scoring chance, you can't put one in the net, and then they rush down and they tie it with 0.2 seconds. That's a killer, man. And luckily we were able to net the overtime winner, but it's something that I don't even know how to describe it. It just ruins your mood, and it ruins the confidence.
Sure. Yeah, and again, I think you guys were on the opposite end, although you did pull that game out. You guys are on the opposite of that happening with the Bears in your final game. Again, a quick play. Looked like you guys had control of the puck in the offensive zone. All of a sudden, the puck is flying down and passes are being made. Dupe with a great pass. I think it was Nisma who might have tied that one up. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but
I believe so.
And so again, another one of those quick plays. It was 0.2 as well, and after that happened, again, it seemed like the play in overtime was then a lot more equal. Hershey had struggled a lot in that game, but you guys, after having that goal against you, early overtime looked like you guys were still a little bit in shock until you finally got the offense rolling again.
Yeah, it's something that you got to bounce back quick from. 0.2 seconds, you're going to have the puck hit the ice at center ice, and you're going to go into overtime. So you got a little time to talk about it and kind of, let's get back to our game plan. Let's play our game. But it's almost a heartbreaker, even with it just being a tying goal.
Right. Well, that series, obviously now over. You guys winning yours in 6 games against a crunch team that did pretty well. Certainly, I think certainly had their issues in what they were able to, who they had to go up against and what they were able to do. Look, they beat the Senators, they beat the Marlies. The Crunch were a pretty damn good team. You had some close games in that series. It wasn't like there were blowouts in there. The last game really being the point where I think maybe it was the Crunch had enough. They were in that game early, and then it just got away from them. But they were a solid team, and what they were able to do against their 2 previous playoff opportunities. Beating a team like the Crunch, who beat the Sens and the Marlies, what kind of confidence do you think that's given your team at this point?
It's right now. I believe we have a great deal of confidence, but that's no different than the rest of the playoffs have been. We knew going into the Hershey series. Well, a lot of people knew going into the Hershey series that we would come out of that one. And then we didn't back down at all against Hershey. We knew going in that we could hang with them and we could beat them. We played them tough all season long. We kind of knew what they were about going back watching games before the series started.
Mm-hmm.
And we kind of put a game plan out, stuck to it against them. And same thing against Hershey, or not Hershey, I'm sorry, against Syracuse. Talking with guys like Philly that had played in that previous series that Syracuse had against Toronto.
Right.
We were able to get a pretty good idea of what they wanted to do and what they were going to try to do. So we kind of built our game plan around that, especially the last two games of the series, switching up how we wanted to play defense because they were starting to pick up on what we were trying to do. But coming off two series wins, we had a lot of confidence, and coming off this third series win against Syracuse, we have, I believe, all the confidence in the world right now.
So now both of you got... Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Vibes.
I was going to say, don't get too confident, or I will rain fire and fury down upon you, the likes of which the world has never seen.
No, we're not worried about that fire that you can supposedly rain down.
He's back. Vibes, the GM, is back.
Stay in your lane, boy.
Hey, listen, both. I want you guys to both answer this, and I'd like to hear Vibes first. You guys talk about, the effort, the energy, the excitement, the confidence. You guys didn't go to a Game 7, Kep, but certainly had a solid, tough series against the Crunch. A little tougher than maybe the numbers prove out. And the Moose, obviously, Vibes. You guys, a very emotional last couple of days, and an overtime Game 7 win. To both of you guys, and Vibes first, how do you get guys to then refocus and get past that and get ready for Game 1 on Sunday? Is the couple of days off in between helpful to get guys to do that, or is there anything else that you think helps out to get you to that point?
It's just, for us, it's kind of become a natural progression, and I can tell you right now, we're already talking about the T-Birds. This series is gone. It's old news to us, and we're focused on nothing but the T-Birds. And it's a quick turnaround, and I think we've already started to do it. Not just myself, but all the players as well. And we have our eyes set on one team and one team only, and that's the T-Birds. So we'll be ready. I mean, I've already begun the process of picking apart all their tapes. We'll continue on through tomorrow, and when tomorrow is done and it goes into Sunday, I'll still be doing a little bit of more, and I'll make sure that my team knows every single tendency that this team has, specifically their goaltending. There's actually been a few things that I've noticed about Bacon Weave and their defense. I see the way that they play in their defensive zone. And there's the thing is that there's always a counter for everything, even if you don't think there is. So we'll know exactly where they can be exploited.
Kep, how do you deal with getting your guys ready after a few tough series that you had to deal with?
It's along the same lines of what Vibes said, and I hate to agree with him here, but you forget about your previous series. We haven't talked about the Syracuse series, I don't think, once since it ended. None of the previous two series have been discussed. So you gotta focus up, move on, and look forward to the team we're playing now, which is the Moose. And there's been a lot of talk in the team chat about what we want to do, what we're going to try to do. So we've already started working on that. So hoping Sunday can get here a little sooner.
Well, we're going to take a look at the stats so far. The season series of 1-1 with your two teams. You You played each other on June 6th with the Thunderbirds with a 5-3 victory. And now, unfortunately, my stat doesn't show who had the 4 goals there. But a game where the Thunderbirds, took that one. Then in July 6th, the Moose winning 6-4. Bear with 2 goals, 2 assists. Junior DC9 had the hat trick in that game, but he eventually went up to the Jets. And Cosmo was your ECU goaltender in that game. He made 15 saves, Vibes. So I'm assuming you're not going to have to worry about using a backup goaltender at this point. But the numbers just in general, 9 goals each. Total shots are close. Time on attack is relatively close, only off by a little more than a minute. More hits by the Thunderbirds, more penalties they've had to be on, so maybe Springfield's been a little more physical. But these teams, number-wise, face-off's a good advantage for Manitoba. The numbers don't say that there's a clear-cut winner here, and I think if you look at the records as well, also just something else that proves out that we're in the finals. These are 2 really good teams. It isn't somebody who fluked in, and I think that's the perception that maybe you guys, both of you, have to deal with a little bit. Springfield and Manitoba had a hell of a season, both teams, and I think people, because Springfield beat Hershey and Manitoba got past a lot of good teams, including San Jose, that you guys just backed into this somehow, and I think it's probably. I'll start with Kepler. It's probably unfair to, that kind of viewpoint that I think a lot of people have, and they probably thought it was going to be San Jose and Hershey, and it's not. That's not the case.
Yeah, our record this year, wasn't fantastic by any means. A lot of people saying we played in a weak division, which we may have, but our first half was rough. Ice Block will tell you, MLN will tell you, anybody on the team will tell you we had a bad first half. We got together before the second half, and we discussed, this has to change or we're not going anywhere. We made a couple real key moves. Picking up Out of the Wall was a very big pickup, and we called up Ajax to kind of solidify our blue line. And we've picked it up quite a bit. So I don't know. Those contributions definitely showed, especially in the playoffs. Wall's been fantastic. He played great in the Hershey series, and he played very, very well in the Syracuse series. So you gotta think about the key contributions and how the teams have changed since those games.
And what about your guys?
I just want to point out the fact that the series season, the season series rather, is 1-1. But if you look at that first game, Mafia Man beat us in that game.
Yeah.
He scored 4 goals and had an assist.
So that was the guy who scored 4 goals. Yep.
Yeah. It was actually Mafia Man who beat us at that point. A game that we actually had in the bag, and then it just kind of Mafia Man happened within the last few minutes of the third period. I remember it pretty well. But otherwise we would have swept the season series. But even that, still, I would go as far as saying that this is another case where the season series doesn't really mean a whole hell of a lot. It's going to be a different story come this series over here.
Well, and that's an interesting sidebar to this whole finals going on, Kep. You guys had Mafia earlier in the season, and Springfield certainly had a lot of issues, and I want to give the Thunderbird a lot of credit for being able to right the ship. Ice Block did a hell of a job, and his management team in figuring out where you guys needed to improve, and made such an improvement that you guys make it to the finals. But part of that was needing to give up Mafia Man to get some value back and get some guys on your team. What's the feeling of the guys on the team knowing that they're going up against Mafia, and does it give you guys a little extra added motivation to try and not let the team that's got him now beat you in the finals?
Not really. I don't think so. me and Mafia have always got along. He's always been a good guy to me.
Mm-hmm.
He just, for whatever reason, I don't know, he didn't fit in the system that we were playing at the time. But I don't think it gives us any added motivation. I mean, it's the Calder Cup Finals. What more motivation do you need?
Sure.
This is what we've wanted all season long, and facing a guy that used to play for us isn't going to add anything to it. So I don't believe it adds anything.
And that line that of course we've seen a good deal of, that's had a tremendous amount of success in the playoffs so far for the Moose. If it winds up getting into an important game, I think we're going to wind up seeing Go Hawks, Nylander, and Mafia again. And you've seen the way they play. You've seen the style that they play and how aggressive they are. How do you deal with a line like that without going out and giving me specifics about exactly what your strategy is? How do you deal with teams that have lines that these guys know what their role is and they play it really well and they have a pretty good chemistry?
I think you deal with that the same way we dealt with Hershey. You just play good team defense. All five guys buy into a defensive system, and you back check, you forecheck, you force turnovers, and you capitalize on your opportunities.
Vibes, how about your defense? I think we talk a lot about your forwards, and we haven't talked enough, maybe in the last few days, about your defense, your goaltending. Pitch last night, and Domi in net, and Beal as well on defense. These guys probably don't get enough recognition for how well they play the game, and while maybe it's like juggling 18 kids or 17 kids on your team. There's still a lot of cohesion between your players, especially your defense. They've played, they've been very underrated in how well they've played in the playoffs this year.
Yeah, they've been really good, and ultimately, I think that we have this really weird, like, dysfunctional family thing going over with the Moose, and sometimes you wouldn't be able to tell whether or not we were on the cusp of killing one another, or if we just love each other like brothers. It's this really odd sort of situation that you can't quite replicate, and it exists right now, and there is a sort of chemistry, and between the defense and the goaltender and everything, like, we're really sound in that department. But I think the team, I think my team has a really good understanding of the fact that, yeah, they've been good so far, and they've done some really good things, but at the end of the day, they haven't done shit yet. And I think they know that, and that's something that I would tell them, and they're going to have to rise even to a new level in this playoff round. If you think that it's been hard so far, well, you better get ready, because it's going to be even harder.
Well, and you hear a lot of talk, another thing we've heard a lot in the shop box this last couple of days after the Crunch were beaten in the playoffs by the Thunderbirds. You hear a lot of this, well, that just goes to show you that Lobo's not good, and he's just, I don't know what people have to do to get the point. Kepler can speak to Lobo's skill and what they had to do to shut him down and to really keep him in check. But first of all, the guy did play well in these playoffs. Second of all, as you go up level by level to the next round, you're playing better and better teams. You're not going to keep on scoring 3 goals and 3 assists every game. And look back at the playoffs. Look back at other seasons and the statistics. You're not going to see big numbers from the big players in the semifinals and the finals games because you're playing really good players at that point. And I think people lose sight of that. You have to figure out how to neutralize those guys, and both your teams have gotten to the point for that reason because you've been able to do that to other teams, and I think sometimes people they lose the sense of what it takes to be successful in the playoffs, and sometimes it means that the big player doesn't score a hat trick every night, and I think that's a big part of what happens here, and people kind of lose sight of that when you're watching the semifinals and the finals. What do you think you're going to see? You think you're going to see, I hate to use a baseball analogy, but Reggie Jackson hit 3 home runs in Game 6. I mean, that's rare. It doesn't happen that way.
Yeah, and you know what? When you can get the skilled players to buy in and play as if they're just cogs within the wheel,
right.
It can be a really good thing. And that's the challenge of getting the skilled guys to buy in. If you can get the skilled guys to buy in, then it just leaves for a really, really good situation, because this is one, especially with this series, moving into this series, and this is with all due respect to the Thunderbirds, but in terms of skill, just pure sheer talent, they can't hold a candle to our team. So as long as we can get these guys to buy in and, try to play the way that they need to play, I think it'll be a good situation for us.
See, here's the thing, Vibes. You can
no.
You gotta let Kepler get some.
You're gonna sit there.
Well, are you gonna come back about? Are you gonna say something about the thing I just said with the skill thing? Because if you are, you're full of shit. But go ahead.
You can sit there and say I'm full of shit, because all playoffs long, you've sat there and said we couldn't hold a candle to any of the talent of the teams that we've played. Look what we did to Hershey. Look what we did to Syracuse. Hershey by far, I think, had more talent than you guys do.
No way.
And no, you're wrong. You're wrong.
No way.
And you've sat there and you slept on us all playoffs long, and then after the series, you're like, oh well, I guess they wanted to come in. You're just listen to yourself talk, Vibes, because it's every series with you talking about our series that there's no way we can hang. We came out, we beat Hartford. They sucked anyway. That's irrelevant. We beat Hershey and outplayed Hershey almost every game. Came out and shut down Syracuse, held Lobo to 1 point? I don't think it's all about talent. I could be wrong, but I don't know. And Go Hawks, your opinion's irrelevant too.
So you think that you can match us in sheer talent?
I didn't say we could match in sheer talent. I said it's not about talent.
Well,
no, not always. You're right about that. Sometimes you need to play a certain way, and I do give you that. And, you did beat a couple of good teams, but at the end of the day, if you think Hershey was as talented as us, you're crazy. And if you think that Syracuse was, you're even more crazy, because, we already know that their top players can't play against good players and sound defense, and our players can. And, your whole little collapsing scheme in front of the goaltender is going to be systemically picked apart.
Okay.
You'll just see.
Okay.
All right. Well, I think what Kepler says is look, I understand. Here's the point. You guys have 2 very different teams. So you're going to have 2 very different opinions about what can be successful and what might not be successful. We're going to find out when the series plays, but I think Kepler's point about his team is a valid one. I think that's how they've beaten these teams. I don't know if I would say that the Thunderbirds had more talent than the Bears or maybe comparable to the Crunch. I'm not sure if they were any better than the Marlies' talent, quite honestly. I think the Marlies may have been the most talented in the East. But to Kepler's point, if you figure out a way to play the team you're playing and you've got a system that works, I think that does have value, Vibes. And whether or not it's going to be successful against your team, we're going to find out. But, you got to have a strategy as a GM, don't you?
Oh, I know, and I agree. And you know what? Having a system like that is great when it's working. But when someone comes along and smashes it, then what do you do?
Well, then you lose the series. But everyone has to have a strategy. So I think what Kepler's saying is a valid point. It doesn't necessarily, really to me. And look, I believe it because I'm old fashioned. I believe in a team concept, and I believe that yeah, you can win games, you can win series. Hell, you can even win the cup with one or two guys who play and who dominate most of the play. I just know from my experience with Hershey last season, we had a lot of talented guys on our team, but when it came to the finals, we struggled. Even before that, we struggled a bit. We had to have, and it's funny because Mafia Man was on the team last season. We had to have him a few times, pick the team up, put him on his back, and win a game or two when we needed it. And that can work, but to me, it's not. It's tough to win a cup doing that. And I think the whole thing is what's going to be your strategy, what's going to be T-Bird's strategy. I think you guys are coming at it from two very different angles of how you're going to approach it. And I think that's the fun part about this series is that, the two very different ways of getting there. We talked a little bit about your guys on the Moose being, like the old movie Boys Town, the Reverend bringing in all the delinquent kids and finding them a place to live. Meanwhile, I think on the other side, you've got the T-Birds who are like a prep school, and so you've got two very different teams, very different people, very different styles. We're gonna see how that really meshes well.
Oh, this is definitely a case of worlds collide.
Yeah,
definitely a case of it. And two very different teams. You're right. The only thing that I'll say is I don't know how they're gonna have a tough time. Listen, they better score and they better score early in every game, because if they get behind us, I don't know how they come back if they get behind us, especially with the way, because we have some skill and we got guys who play a team defensive system. And I just don't know how, if they get behind us, they find their way. Whether it be in a game or in the series, if they go down, 2-0 in a game or 2-0 in the series, they're gonna have a tough time.
Well, at this point, I want to talk a little bit about just in general, what's coming down the road. Some of the things that we've seen, and you mentioned, if the T-Birds get behind, well, the T-Birds have seemingly been in control of all of their series. And so if they got behind, I think that would be an interesting angle. If they're down 2-0, 2-1, and however they get there, how they deal with that. I want to ask Kepler, though. We've seen the Moose take two very good teams to a Game 7 and put that lineup out there. And I know last night Biggie had said they've got to, T-Birds need to win this in 6 games. If it goes to Game 7, they're going to have a real difficult time. Do you think that's at all valid, or do you guys not think of it in that way?
Personally, I don't think so. We know we have guys that we can throw out in a Game 7 that can produce. We know we have guys that can produce all series long. We've had a bunch of guys step up in the playoffs, so I'm not worried about if it goes 6, if it goes 7. We know what we're playing for. The Moose know what they're playing for. Both good teams, but I'm not concerned if it goes to a deep series. And if we go down early in a game, so what? We started out Game 6 down 2-0 within the first 10 minutes, and then came back and won 7-3. So I'm not necessarily worried about it.
Vibez, your goaltending situation, Domi and Arch, are they fully available this week? Are there any issues with these guys, with schedules, with FIFA, with vacations? Is there anything we should know about that, or are these guys ready to go this week?
Well, Domi is trying to get his FIFA career started, and I don't know how that's going to intertwine with the playoff games. I know that he's always kind of wanted to, play soccer and then see what he can do on the field, the soccer field.
Mm-hmm.
I guess that's what they call it. So we don't know how available he's going to be. I can tell you definitively, C-Bomb is out for the remainder of the season, and he will not be available at all. And Domi could be spotty, and that's all I really know of. I think. Nylander is supposed to be going away somewhere. He's supposed to go away last week, but now he's supposed to go away this week. So he may not be there for a good portion of the series. But other than that, I think everyone's around.
Josh Lehman might see some time in this series, a game.
He would, except for the fact that he is used up, so he cannot be used.
Oh, he can't. Okay, he's played enough in the playoffs that he can't be used.
Yeah, he's been played twice. Yeah.
Wow. How do you? Do you think this could be an issue for you guys?
In terms of goaltending?
Yeah.
I always got something up my sleeve.
Okay. You're not gonna bring Mikey D back, are you?
No, but I got a bunch of guys that aren't even listed as goalies that can play really good goaltenders, so I'll be fine.
All right. And of course on the other side. Bacon, we know what he's capable of, but McGowan, 3-0 in the playoffs so far. One of those a shutout. He's played incredibly well. How much more relaxed and confident are you guys now that you got two goaltenders who are playing very good hockey right now in the playoffs?
We've been confident with Bacon and McGowan as long as we've had both of them. I don't really see much of a drop off between the two. They're both real solid goalies. They both come out. They know their primary job is to stop the puck, and they do it. So I don't.
Is that what a goalie does?
Sometimes it depends on who you talk to.
I didn't know that's what a goalie did.
But no, they both come out and they do their job. So we're confident with both of them, and I know our defense is especially confident. When we're lining up in front of either one of them, it doesn't matter.
In the last game McGowan had played was a 1-0 shutout against the Crunch. He made 14 saves in that one. Before that, a 3-2 victory against the Crunch where he made 15 out of 17. He's played very well. He's actually he's had a good week last week. Bacon really was the guy who was 2-1-1 in the week last week, and still his numbers still look good, but struggled a little bit in that last game. Your victory, the 7-3 victory, little difficulty that game, but again, you've got two incredibly strong goaltenders, and I know Bacon is one of those guys who absolutely gets ramped up for this kind of situation.
Oh, he loves it, man. He's been a fun guy to talk to in the playoffs, and I can't even imagine what's going through his head right now because he's a little nuts. So
well, all goaltenders are.
Sometimes I don't want to know what's going through his head, but he's excited for the opportunity. I know that.
The sad thing is we don't get hit with pucks, and we're still kind of nuts, all of us.
That's the one way that I can see them winning the series is just like a case where it's absolute domination by the Moose, and for some reason, some way, somehow the puck just stays out of the net, and basically the goaltending steals the show. That is the one way I do see them winning.
I think a lot of the series will revolve around goaltending, to be honest.
I think a lot of it does. I mean, I think, defense and goaltending, I got to tell you, the Heat last season were just ridiculous about how good theirs was. And they seemed impenetrable in the playoffs. And we struggled, obviously, mightily, as most of their team likes to put the sweep icon up in the shout box on me whenever I'm there. But I definitely think goaltending is going to play a part in this one, part because of how strong Springfield is. And Domi is a damn good goaltender, but is his availability there? And then who's going to be the other guy? And Arch has a tremendous amount of talent. He's had a little struggle this playoff, but the last game I saw him play, he wasn't too bad. Vibes. I mean, I think he looks like he may be starting to come back to the skill level that I've seen him play at. But you're certainly going to need some good games out of whoever else is playing besides Domi.
If Arch plays like he did in the last game versus the Barracuda in Game 6, I think Arch is the best goalie in the entire league.
Wow.
And certainly the best goalie left in the entire league. He was absolutely phenomenal, and he just almost outright stole a game for us. The shots were like 26-4. And he stopped, 21 of them. That's a phenomenal showing, and I think he's hopefully coming around. If he's going to play like that, he's going to be really tough to beat. And when you could stop that many shots coming at you, he almost outright stole the game. And if we get that from him, then we have two goalies who are just playing phenomenal. So we'll see what happens with that.
Yeah, Arch 22 saves out of 25 shots in an overtime game where the Barracuda won that one, and so he hasn't had a win in the playoffs yet, but that was the game I'm talking about, and certainly he, if he's on, that may even up the goaltending a little bit more. I tell you what, let's get to the point now where we talk about how this is going to pan out. I know what your predictions are going to be for the most part. You could, if you don't want to give it for your team, that's fine. But if you do want to give it, give me games, and then I'll give my prediction at the end here. But before we do that, let me just ask you one more question before we get predictions, and I'll start with Kepler. What do you think is the one key in this matchup that not what you guys have to do, but what's going to be one of the defining keys in this matchup that might sway it one way or another?
I would say, honestly, I'd say either turnovers or penalties. Those are two things that, kill every team.
Right.
And you've seen it game in and game out. Team with a bunch of turnovers loses, I'd say 90% of the time, or the team that is shorthanded more often will lose. So I think those are two big keys in the series.
Vibes?
I think the two keys in this series are their goaltending and whether or not my team takes them lightly. Because if my team takes them lightly for a second, we're going to lose.
Right.
But if we don't, and their goaltending isn't just out of this world, they don't stand a chance.
All right. Well, I tell you what, I see this one going. Wow, this is a tough one. It really is difficult because
I know you like Kepler, but go ahead. It's all right. If you got to hurt his feelings, go right ahead.
Well, here's the problem. I don't know if
I like him too. I really do. But if you got to hurt him, just go ahead.
I don't think I've picked either one of your teams ever in this playoff round, in any round in this season. So it would be the first time I'm forced.
You picked us first round. You did.
Did I? Okay, yeah. Maybe I did. I might have done that. But I've had no faith in you since. So
Zero.
Which
lumps you into the 88.6% of the community who thought that we could not beat the Barracuda. 88.6% of the community was wrong.
Well, I think that's a pretty common thing, really, with this community. They're wrong. They're probably wrong more than that.
Wrong.
And I actually did initially pick you guys against Cleveland, but then I backed out of it. Always got to go with your first impression, but I think goaltending is going to be a key in this one. What always scares me is knowing that Vibez has something in his back pocket, something up his sleeve that he's going to do, and I can never guess it, so I'm never playing poker against him. As long as everyone's showing up for these games. And we don't have any issues. It will come down to the goaltending. I feel like...
Are you really about to pick the T-Birds? Is that really what you're going to do right now? Are you really doing this?
Why would you say that? I was just talking about the goaltending. Do you think their goaltending's better?
I don't know. I just feel like it's T-Birds. I feel like you're gonna say T-Birds. Are you really gonna do this, Sibs?
You know what the deal is? Both of your teams are have been tough to figure out how you guys are doing it, and I think Springfield has played an incredibly slowed down game against some of their opponents, and the crunch games. I got to be honest with you, Kepler. A couple of the early crunch games, I could have fallen asleep to. They were a lot of neutral zone play,
Oh, yeah.
and it was brutal to watch at times. I don't know how successful you're going to be in making that happen against these guys. I'm going to say this, and Kepler's going to hate me. I'm going to take the Moose in 7.
Feelings don't exist.
I'm taking the Moose in 7.
Okay.
I think it's good. I think it's good. They're going to need 7. I think they've needed to do that. I think San Jose, it was a hell of a team, but I think you're pretty much up to par with them as well. I think it's going to take 7, but I think the Moose will figure out a way to do it.
Okay.
Kepler sounds like he just shot his dog.
No, I respect that. You took Syracuse in 7 last series, so I can respect it here.
You know how right I've been so far. What am I like? I think I'm ranked like 112th at this point. So obviously I've not figured it out this season. But I think somehow the Moose are going to figure it out. If their goaltending holds up, I think they can win this. Wow, so a lot of silence. Oh wow, I just saw Kepler unfriended me on Discord.
I'm unfriending you because you gave them 7 games.
Oh come on, you really think you're gonna win it in less than 7? Seriously?
No, I picked the T-Birds in 4.
Of course you did. That's what you've done every series.
Kepler, do you have a prediction?
Thunderbirds in 6.
In 6. Vibes? No, I know what you said on the site. Give me a serious answer, please.
I can't do it. Sorry, I can't do it. T-Birds in 4.
Just man up and do it.
T-Birds in 4.
Wow. You're going to be like that now, huh? You're not going
Well,
to be
you're definitely not going to challenge me into being like, oh, no, he said be a man and do it. Let me be a man. Throw my balls on the table.
I don't think I need to back up Kepler. I think he's absolutely right. I mean, it's clear as day that you're not being a man here. But if you don't want to give it, that's fine.
Well,
you don't have to.
Then stick it in my vagina, then. Let's go.
Oh, okay. Well, listen, guys, I think we should wrap this up.
I'm definitely not going to abandon everything that I've done thus far because it's been working. So, I told you I was superstitious.
Yeah, you've got the X-rated version of the Bad News Bears made up of making up the Moose, and I think you've done a hell of a job.
Chat? Have you read through the chat?
You know what's funny is that
my team's hilarious. They're hilarious.
Go Hawks a little bit earlier today sounded like he was completely sober and rational for the most part, and now in the YouTube live chat he obviously has started doing shots because he's gotten back to where he was the other night. It's if nothing else, we're seeing a bunch of guys who really want to play these games. And I think we're gonna have a fun finals again. As I usually do, I'll give Kepler the first crack at any final thoughts about this series coming up, and what your initial feeling about this matchup is.
I think it's going to be a great series. They can, and by they I mean Domi and Go Hawks can run their mouths all they want, but I think it's going to be a good series, and a lot of us in Springfield are looking forward to it. So we're just ready for Sunday to roll around and kind of get it started.
Vibes, as usual, I'll give you the last comment here.
Here's to the Moose and the motley crew that we are. And I'm just trying to stay alive and take care of my people, and they don't have no awards for that, boys. Let's do it.
All right, guys. Again, thanks for joining me today. Appreciate it. Good luck in the finals this week.
Yep. Thank you.
That was Kepler and Vibez. I'm TSibs, and again, thanks for joining us here on AHLPSN this week. Hope you enjoyed the show today. We will be on Sunday live at 9:15 for the pregame show. Game starts at 9:30. Game 1, the Moose and the Thunderbirds coming up of what's going to be a very interesting series. Have a good day, everyone. We'll talk to you soon.